your application.
Absolutely. Thank you for mentioning that.
Thank you, Karen.
Director Salmon, who prepared this report?
This study was prepared by a group called Matrix Associates. They worked very closely with the Housing Authority and with the city to take a look at the things that the Housing Authority and city thought needed to be looked at, and they were extremely responsive to the local input that was received through the meetings, the surveys, focus groups, and so forth. They gave us a plan that was very much tailored to Hot Springs and our situation and circumstances here, and didn't just give us a template with cut and paste on somebody else's study. This is a Hot Springs study.
Great.
Just for those in the audience and those at home, our board packet for this meeting was 327 pages long. And this report was 129 pages, not including the appendixes. So I enjoyed reading every page.
I did too.
I did. Director Foley, I think he scoured every page as well as many of the other directors did. Those of you, if anyone wants this report, Kathy, where can they get this?
It's
Because this was
available
an
online.
interesting report.
Online.
It is available at the city's website.
Okay, city website, and the title of the report would be?
Analysis of Impediments to Fair Housing Choice, 2019.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mayor, I did read the entire report, and I want you to know I would encourage the community to read it because some of the results were stunning, absolutely stunning in a negative way. We hear lots of comments about homeless people and we should do this or we should do that, but we haven't taken care of some of the basics in our community that protect people who need housing. And this study really puts a light on that. And there are reasonable ways to approach it, and I would encourage the public to get online and look at this report because it is eye-opening.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
Any discussion amongst directors? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Clark,
Aye.
Weatherford,
Aye.
Garcia,
Aye.
Foley,
Aye.
Davidson,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye, resolution's adopted. This time we'll consider resolution number R 1915 and ask the city attorney to read by title.
Resolution R 1915, a resolution amending Community Development Block Grant Fiscal Year 2018 Annual Action Plan as amended to reallocate $7,503.14 to eligible fair housing, education, and outreach activities. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion.
I so moved, Mayor.
Got a motion by Director Jones, seconded by
Second.
Director Clark. And Planning Director Kathy Salmon returns.
Thank you, Mayor. The City of Hot Springs receives annual funds from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development under the Community Development Block Grant Program. And to receive these funds, the city is required to submit an annual action plan to HUD detailing how funds will be spent during a fiscal year. When changes in spending are needed, the city is required to formally amend the annual action plan describing the changes. This amendment to the fiscal year 2018 annual action plan proposes reallocating $7,503.14 in unspent funds from projects that were completed under budget to fair housing, education, and outreach activities. And that may include, but isn't limited, to print advertising, public service announcements, educational materials, and classes for our citizens. The recent analysis of impediments to fair housing choice recommended increasing resident awareness of fair housing rights and complaint procedures, increasing participation in the CDBG-funded homebuyer education program, and providing fair housing education classes and materials for landlords, realtors, and residents. Taking affirmative steps to address impediments to fair housing is a CDBG grant requirement, and these available funds will help us expand our efforts to improve fair housing and access to affordable housing resources. The amendment was available for public review and comment between December 28th and February 4th. The Community Development Advisory Committee held a public meeting on January 3rd to discuss the amendment. 2 residents at that time commented in support of education and outreach activities, and they also provided low and no-cost advertising ideas. The Community Development Advisory Committee recommended that the Board of Directors consider the amendment. Thank you.
Very good. Any questions of Director Selman? Thank you. We had no members of the audience sign up to speak on this issue. Any discussion amongst directors? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Weatherford,
Aye.
Garcia,
Aye.
Foley,
Aye.
Davidson,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye. Resolution is adopted. This time we'll consider resolution number R1916 and ask City Attorney to read by title.
Resolution R1916, a resolution approving the Community Development Advisory Committee's prioritized fiscal year 2019 applications to be the basis for the fiscal year 2019 Community Development Block Grant Annual Action Plan to United States Department of Housing and Urban Development. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Weatherford, seconded by Director Garcia. Director Selman completing her trifecta.
Yes, thank you. We are requesting consideration of a prioritized list of fiscal year 2019 Community Development Block Grant applications as recommended by the Community Development Advisory Committee. And I just want to say, this isn't in my notes, my script, but I need to depart to thank the members of your Community Development Advisory Committee. They, everything that they sent to you to read, they have read, and we know they've read it. They spend hours and hours working to be sure that those things that they send forward to you help you in your decision making, and I like to recognize them for that, so thank you. As a grantee of the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development Community Development Block Grant Funds, we are required to submit an annual action plan detailing the projects and planned expenses within 60 days of notification of an annual allocation announcement from HUD. At this time, Congress has not passed a 2019 appropriations bill, and HUD is unable to calculate grantee funding. However, we need to continue moving forward with community development block grant plans in order to meet statutory deadlines. Preliminary approval of a prioritized list of projects enables the city to focus limited resources on completing requirements to submit the annual action plan on time following the allocation announcement. In preparation, applications were solicited between July 5th and August 24th, 2018. They were made available for public review on August 28th. 19 eligible applications were received from 6 nonprofits, 4 neighborhood associations, and the Planning and Development Department. The Community Development Advisory Committee held a well-advertised public hearing on October 4th, in which applicants presented their applications and answered questions. Public comment was heard, and following a lengthy discussion, the committee recommended the proposed list of prioritized projects to you for your consideration. 23 residents attended the meeting, 6 public comments were heard in support of various projects, and no additional written comments have been received. It is difficult to estimate what our annual funding might be without an appropriations bill, but based on recent years, it could be between $340,000 and $450,000. If the 2019 HUD allocation is less than the total amount of proposed projects, projects would be funded in the prioritized order up to the amount available. Projects in excess of the available amount of funding will be placed on hold for reconsideration should additional funding become available in fiscal year 2019. And on our previous item, you saw that funds do become available from time to time. So that's a good thing. Should the actual allocation exceed the total amount of prioritized projects, unallocated excess funds shall be reserved for infrastructure improvements where such funds may be used for eligible projects, or the Community Development Advisory Committee may recommend other action to the Board of Directors. As always, needs outweigh available resources, and it's unlikely that we will be able to fund all proposed projects. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Any questions of Director Selman? Thank you.
Thanks.
We have two citizens who have signed up to speak on this issue. First will be Miss Cindy Rogers. Please come forward and state your name and address, please.
Hello, my name is Cindy Rogers, and I live at 138 Circle Drive, and I am the current chair of the Park Avenue Community Association Board of Directors. And I would like to say before I start, I want to thank the board, the CDAC committee, the city departments, and Michelle Sestilli for the continued effort and support of our neighborhoods. The Community Development Block Grant has made a tremendous impact on our neighborhood, as it has with Whittington and the Gateway Neighborhood Association. It has helped spur development in our low to moderate income neighborhoods. And I believe it was in 2015 at a board workshop, the city decided to concentrate on those efforts in areas 1 and 2 and to finish what we started. The Park Avenue Community Association has a 30-year history of advocacy for our neighborhood. It has ebbed and flowed over that time, but since 2013, the Community Development Block Grant process has helped spur development and economic growth in our area. It has done more than anything else to improve the livability, the safety, and the accessibility. So when we review the priority of projects, I ask that you please continue to look at the neighborhood infrastructure and safety and accessibility projects that we've done in our 3 areas that we targeted, and to continue that. Because without that, we have no funding besides the city departments to fix our neighborhoods. And I appreciate your time, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Miss Angie Ezekiel. I know you already stated your name and address, but we'd like to hear it again.
Angie Ezekiel, 508 Mountain Valley Street. And I'm speaking as the president of Park Avenue Community Association. And as Cindy Rogers already stated, we are very indebted to the CDBG funds to help us revitalize our neighborhood and to increase the walkability and bikeability and general use of our streets and sidewalks because they were in very bad disrepair. A former city manager spoke about a ring of blight, which involved our neighborhood, Park Avenue, the Whittington Valley neighborhood, as well as Gateway, because these were areas that had fallen into disrepair over the last few decades. These neighborhoods had very diverse populations and lots of needs that the city alone could not address. Now, with the use of the Community Development Block Grant funds, we've been able to address those infrastructure problems and make our neighborhoods safer and more livable and more inviting. However, some of the, as was mentioned a little bit ago, the needs exceed the available resources provided by the Community Development Block Grants. So I would like to, I always hate to bring this up, but some of the groups that apply for these funds do have other resources available to them where the neighborhood associations do not. Federal, state, and private funds are available to some of the other groups that are applying for these funds. And, you know, in the future, the Community Development Block Grant may be smaller, and we should consider continuing to make the improvements that we've been working towards. Finish what we started first. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. That completes those who have signed up to speak on this resolution. At this time, we'll have discussion amongst directors. Any discussion or comments? I will say that, oh, did you have your hand up?
I was just have a comment again to thank the committee for all the hard work they put in to make this list, and it's a very diverse areas that are addressed here: ADA, low-income housing assistance, and it's an excellent list, and I'm glad that they are willing to put in that time to provide the detailed work. Thank you.
It was a few years back that the city board changed its policy on utilization of these funds. What year was that where we focused more on infrastructure versus some individual properties? It might have been more than the
14.
Pardon?
I think it was 2014 was
Around 14.
2013.
2013.
Yes.
I was sleeping
And
that
that's
year.
when people start seeing a big impact where we can provide concentration. Ms. Rogers had kind of pointed that out in her comments. And as Director Garcia indicated, this list is really diverse. It focuses on some individual smaller projects that are well-meaning to individual organizations, but at the same time focuses on larger infrastructure projects within the areas that were previously mentioned. One such area is in the Malvern Avenue Improvement Project. It was number 3 on the list.
Thank you, Mayor.
For design plans for from Grove to East Grand at about $44,000, $43,500. So those are big things that groups like the Pleasant Street aren't able to fund, but we as a city through the community block grant are able to provide those dollars and perform those study services. So on a second note, I was actually talking to some business people earlier this afternoon regarding how we prioritize some things, and I made reference to the Community Development Advisory Board as the means by which we as a city board receive their guidance and input on how these are prioritized. And I'm not certain, since we've changed our policy, whether the city board has ever altered this list. We always ask what happens if we get more funds or if some funds are left over, but we've never altered this. We've taken what they've said and let them run with it. So we really appreciate their efforts in doing the legwork that then we can approve and make our community better. So, any other comments? Hearing none, we'll call the roll.
Garcia,
Aye.
Foley,
Aye.
Davidson,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Weatherford,
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye. Resolution's adopted. This time we'll consider Resolution R 1917 and ask the city attorney to read by title.
Resolution R 1917, a resolution amending Resolution 2481, adopting general policies and procedures for the creation of advisory committees. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
I so moved.
Got motion by Director Jones, seconded by
Second.
Director Garcia. And
Mayor, I'll address this one.
Thank you.
Mayor, members of the board, as the title indicates, if adopted, this resolution would amend Resolution 2481, which was adopted by the board in 1990. At that time, committees were referred to as commissions under that particular resolution. They are not commissions, they are advisory committees, and so there was a need to change that reference throughout the entirety of that resolution. But the reason that we looked at this resolution and saw that change needed to be made was due to the fact that we have so many openings on our advisory committees. I think the importance of those committees have been shown here this evening. We've had issues on your agenda concerning the airport, which has an advisory committee, the parks and trails, which also has an advisory committee, and of course CDAC that we've been talking about in the last 3 issues. There was a prohibition for anyone who was an appointed official to serve on that any advisory committee. That term was not defined within the resolution, and that caused some ambiguity and uncertainty in who could apply for such positions. So that has been stricken from the resolution. So unless there is some prohibition under state law for someone who is serving under, let's say, the Civil Service Commission, for example, no member of the Civil Service can serve on any other board, commission, or committee. But this would open it up for others to apply for these various advisory committees, which we have openings for.
Very good. Any questions of the city attorney? Any discussion amongst directors? Please call the roll.
Foley,
Aye.
Davidson,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Weatherford,
Aye.
Garcia,
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye. Resolution's adopted. This time we'll consider Resolution R 1918 and ask City Attorney to read by title.
Resolution R 1918, a resolution establishing Hot Springs Board of Directors 2019 Arkansas General Assembly legislative priorities. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Foley, seconded by
Second.
Director Weatherford. And let's see, we've got Mr. Spitzer going to
On
give
to
us
this
a
one.
staff
Thank-
report.
Thank you, sir. This particular item, as the title does indicate, these are various legislative priorities that have been derived either from city staff or from the Arkansas Municipal League. Excuse me. The Arkansas Municipal League, for those that are unaware, they are the spokesperson for cities during the legislative session. This particular priorities listing does include 33 draft bills and some of the priorities of the Arkansas Municipal League. So I won't go into all those various items. They are of importance to cities and towns, but I will move through. We have 4 different legislative items that are have been identified by staff. First on the listing there is, it has a very long title, but essentially it deals with collecting and remitting online sales tax by those type of sellers. It's obviously one of great importance to local governments and state governments. Currently, I believe there is a bill that's been proposed that would do so. At this time, it hasn't. Obviously, it's moving through the process, but it's very important to local governments, and we would like to see that kind of level the playing field between brick and mortar and those online sellers. So that's item 1. The second item deals with maximum age requirements for firefighters. Currently, civil service law requires a 35 years of age limit. There are 2 other exceptions within the law, but this particular SB 54 has an exception whereby if you are a member of the service or uniformed reserves and you are within 3 years of separation or retirement, that age requirement would be exempted. So that provided a little bit of some heartburn for our civil service, police and fire, and that's one of the ones that they had brought to our attention as a possible legislative priority. The second one deals more with public awards. So I think you saw on your item 9, a lot of the awards for CDBG projects were all in that $30,000 to $40,000 range, and currently the state law requires projects that are $35,000 or greater to have a cash bond to back that particular project. We would request that possibly be amended to increase it. Right now, it does require, it kind of limits some of the smaller businesses to get into those type of projects. And obviously with these local projects, we would like to have additional contractors that are able to participate in it. So $35,000 requirement, we'd like to see that adjusted possibly. And the final one deals with the prohibition on local governments to deal with broadband. I think this was a holdover from previous, the 2017 session. And really, it also deals with right-of-way management practices. So this is one that was previously the city had supported, and we've just carried this one forward as well.
Very good. Just, I want to make a point that that 35-year age limit for firefighters, that only pertains to them being employed,
Correct.
not if
Yes.
they've been in the force since age 22 and they reach 35, they got to go.
That's correct.
No,
Yes,
it's just
sir.
for,
Sorry.
for new
Hiring age.
hiring age.
Yeah.
They can serve as long as they're physically capable, once they're on board. So, any discussion, any questions of Mr. Spitzer? Any discussion amongst directors? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Davidson,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Weatherford,
Aye.
Garcia,
Aye.
Folly,
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye. Resolution's adopted. Our final resolution, but we have other action items under the ordinances. Our final resolution of tonight is R 1919. Ask City Attorney to read by title.
Resolution R 1919, a resolution establishing Ouachita Avenue Entertainment District within the city of Hot Springs. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Clark, seconded by
Second.
Director Davidson. And Mr. Denny McFate, Director of Public Works, will provide a staff overview.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. The area businesses have expressed an interest in establishing an outdoor entertainment district, which would go from the corner of Market and Ouachita along the west side of Central to include the parking lot on the north side of Chapel Street. By approving this resolution, it will enable special events to take place outside the buildings within this district. But it would still be subject to review through the special event application process to be reviewed and approved by all applicable city departments for each event. And by approval of this resolution, it would allow this also district to be utilized if there was an interest in time for the St. Patrick's Day parade festivities. Any questions?
Thank you.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
I noticed you said outside the buildings in this district that you're creating.
Yeah, there's certain laws by the ABC that they still got to abide by.
There's only 2 buildings in that
At this
district.
time,
The rest
yes,
of them
sir.
are parking lots.
Yes, sir.
So are the parking lots going to be able to be used? Because you
Yes, sir.
said outside the
That
buildings.
entire shaded
Well,
area.
I remember, I know what we were talking about the other day, but I heard that word outside the buildings and,
I meant in the outside atmosphere.
okay.
I
I
stand
just wanted to
corrected.
be sure.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. We had no citizens sign up to speak on this issue. Any discussion amongst directors? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Jones,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Weatherford,
Aye.
Garcia,
Aye.
Folly,
Aye.
Davidson,
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye, resolution's adopted. We have 5 ordinances we'll be addressing this evening. Our first will be consider ordinance number 1908. And I'll entertain a motion to suspend the rules and read by title only.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Director Weatherford, seconded by Director Clark. All in favor of the motion to suspend the rules and read by title, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's approved. Council, please read ordinance by title.
Ordinance 01908, an ordinance amending ordinance number 6211, adopting new regulations governing the extension and connection of municipal water and wastewater services, declaring an emergency, and for other purposes. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Foley, seconded by Director Weatherford. And City Attorney Brian Albright will provide the staff report.
Mayor, this is a proposed ordinance that would amend your existing extension and connection policy for municipal utilities. The amendments that are being proposed are primarily focused on economic development opportunities outside of the city of Hot Springs, but that would benefit our community as a whole. One such one that was mentioned in the city manager's State of the City tonight is the expansion of Mid-America Museum. That's actually not inside the city limits, nor is it inside the city's planning area. They need utilities. That's an opportunity for economic development that this amendment would foster, as well as others. So to that end, Section 1, subsection J2 of your existing policy sets forth the criteria for connections and extensions outside of the city limits. Those criteria would not apply to areas that would fall under the certain exceptions. If the requested location were owned by the City of Hot Springs or any of its component units, if the requested location were within the geographical boundaries of Mid-America Industrial Park, if the requested location were within the geographical boundaries of Garland County Industrial Park, Highway 270 East, if the requested location is within the city's service area and qualifies to receive job creation incentives through the Arkansas Economic Development Commission in any of the following categories. There are 4 categories. One is the Advantage Arkansas, that's an income tax credit. ARC Plus, that's also an income tax credit. Credit Rebate, which is a cash rebate program, and infrastructure grants, and that's the Governor's Quick Action Fund. In addition to those changes, it would also allow for connections to duplexes within the planning area outside of the city limits, and it would also establish a multifamily application fee for connection or extension in the amount of $250.
Very good. Any questions of Mr. Albright? Thank you. We've had 2 citizens as signed up to speak on this ordinance. First will be County Judge Darryl Mahoney. Welcome, County Judge. But you're still going to have to give your name and address.
My name is Darryl Mahoney. I'm the Garland County Judge, and my address is 1115 Walnut Valley Road. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, and Mr. Spicer, Mr. Burrow, Mr. McCabe, and distinguished counsel B, I want to come before you tonight and be extremely brief because I feel very insignificant after listening to the State of the City address from Bill Burrows. It was very impressive, and I'm proud that we get to be a part of that. Representing the government of Garland County, which is part of the City of Hot Springs. We're all one in this together. Whether people have wanted to believe that in the past or not, we are. And representing them, I want to thank each and every one of you for reaching out to try to make changes and move forward to bring our community forward. Economic development begins in the center and moves outward, and a rising tide raises all ships. So we're in this together. And we're going to do our part to make sure that we can do everything we can to ensure the development within the city and within the county. I don't want to hold anything back from anybody. I want to have an open door. I'm going to be here as much as I can to come to your meetings because I want to know what's going on with you, and I don't want you to have to hear secondhand from somebody on the street that we didn't appreciate the movement that you've made towards us. So I came here tonight to just tell you all that as a citizen of Garland County and as a county judge and as a representative of the Quorum Court, we certainly appreciate and recognize what you're doing. And any time that any of you need anything, my office is always open. Everybody's got my cell phone that's up here. I believe most of you do. If you don't, call me at any hour if you need anything. I'll be glad to talk to you about it or work through any problem that we could ever have. But once again, I just thank you for the movement, and I'm really excited about the future. Bill and I have talked several times. Pat and I have talked several times. We've already got a few things working together that we're going to try to do, and I hope it all works out. But if it not, we'll go back to the drawing board and get something else. But thank you very much for your time this evening.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our second and final speaker that signed up on this ordinance is Mr. Gary Troutman, President of Hot Springs Chamber of Commerce and Metro Partnership.
Thank you, Mayor.
Welcome.
Gary Troutman, 451 Lakeland Drive. I don't think I can say anything more eloquently than the county judge just did, but I do want to commend you all on this proactive measure. It goes back to a meeting in June that between the city and county, and congratulate City Manager Burrow, Mayor McCabe, and City Attorney Albright, as well as County Judge Mahoney for being there and looking for solutions instead of and reasons not to work together. Bill mentioned in his State of the City spirit of partnership and collaboration, and nothing could resonate more than this. We take benchmarking trips each year, And we don't go to cities that aren't doing well. We go to, Mayor, I know you went to Asheville on the very first one. We've been to Asheville, we've been to Saratoga Springs, I should say. Asheville, Saratoga Springs, Oklahoma City, and Chattanooga. And the commonality in all those in Pensacola that we're working with now is their city and county work together, and they are proactive. And I would strongly ask you to consider this. And finally, in a maybe a more selfish vein, I'd liken it to college recruiting. You know, everyone is high on their university and feels good about their particular school, but it sure makes it a lot easier on the recruiter when they know they've got a great stadium, a great staff of professors and education, and the facilities. And this just allows us, before we go out on these recruitment trips, to know that we can deliver what we promise, knowing that connection is going to be there. So thank you for your time, and again, I really appreciate you being proactive on this. It's a big step.
Thank you.
Thank you. That completes the list of citizens that have signed up to vote to address the board on this issue. Any discussion amongst directors? Director Foley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to support this issue when it comes for a vote, but I want to go back just a little bit and remind everybody that at the time we passed this resolution, the original resolution, we had a significant shortage of water. And we're concerned about our inability to provide water to all of our existing customers if we continued to do the extensions and connections. Since that time, we have made several changes in our policy that were measured based upon our ability to provide that water. And I see this as just a really positive effort to get out and support any question of economic development support. I especially appreciate Judge Mahoney's comments about the cooperation. I would like to add, though, I think that this is probably the opportune time for the board to have a work session to really talk about, once our treatment plant is finished and we know we won't have a problem distributing water, what is our intent in terms of further distributing it throughout the county? Without binding future boards, I think that the public is entitled to at least an expression of our intent as to what we will do to handle this utility. And so I'd ask for a work session at some time to discuss it.
Very good. Any other comments? I'll just add one short comment. What I like about this, and I want to thank Brian and Bill and the staff that worked on this, it's the City of Hot Springs has a contract with Hot Springs Metro Partnership for economic development. And we provide them $100,000 a year for that service. And sometimes, you know, we can be kind of counterproductive where we sign a contract for services, but at the same time, they have to have the tools to attract industry, and water can be that tool. And so for us to be able to expand the availability of water within these defined industrial parks, as well as recognizing these the Arkansas Economic Development Commission's certification programs is a win for the Hot Springs Metro Partnership, for them to be able to do their job more effectively. So I thank the staff for your efforts in this area. Any other comments? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Clark,
Aye.
Weatherford,
Aye.
Garcia,
Aye.
Foley,
Aye.
Davidson,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye.
And Mayor, before we get ahead of ourselves, there
yeah,
is
we
an
got an
emergency
emergency
clause, which I'll
clause.
read in its entirety. Section 4, effective date, emergency clause. This ordinance being immediately necessary for the protection of the public health, safety, and welfare is hereby found and determined that an emergency exists and therefore will be in full force and effect from and after the date of its passage and approval. That concludes your reading of the emergency clause. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Director Garcia, seconded by Director Foley. We need to do voice.
Voice vote's fine.
All in favor of the emergency clause signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Emergency clause is adopted. This time we'll consider Resolution 01909, and I'd entertain a motion to suspend the rules and read by title only.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Director Garcia, second by Director Clark. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's approved. Council, please read by title.
Ordinance 01909, an ordinance waiving the requirements of competitive bidding for the purchase and installation of additional emergency warning sirens from SafetyCom and for other purposes. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion and a second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Jones, seconded.
Second.
Director Clark. Mr. Denny McFate, Director of Public Works, will provide the staff report.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. In late 2013, the city contracted with Little Rock-based SafetyCom for the purchase and installation of the first phase of the emergency warning siren system. Phase 1 was installed in January 2014 and included 5 omnidirectional sirens, which are both tone and voice capable. Phase 1 also consisted of the control hardware and software, which the primary unit is housed at the central fire station, with a backup unit housed at the 911 center. This phase covered the downtown area, including Whittington Park and Central Avenues. Since then, 10 additional sirens have been added to the system, 2 per year, for a total to date of 15 sirens throughout the city. The addition of 2 additional sirens in 2019 will further expand coverage to the south and southwest part of town, one of them being located just east of the Highway 70 Lake Hamilton Bridge. The second location will be in the vicinity of the Hot Springs Mall property. There will be 2 siren stations remaining to be purchased after the 2019 year if this is approved. So 2020 we'd be looking for 2 more to complete the entire city system. The city wishes to enter into a contract with SafetyCom as sole source vendor in order to maintain the same supplier and technical support from SafetyCom. Following a request for proposals in 2013, SafetyCom was chosen from 4 siren dealers that submitted proposals. The price and equipment of all dealers were similar, and SafetyCom was chosen due to their advanced software, which greatly complements the Code Red phone warning system, their excellent reputation, locality, and superior poles that the sirens are mounted on. Proposals were ranked and rated on multiple parameters, including method of doing work, qualifications, experience, and cost. The city has been pleased with SafetyCom's equipment and service to date, and the total cost of the system is $77,184.62 and is budgeted in 2019 stormwater budget. Any questions?
Very good. Any questions for Mr. McFate? Thank you. We had no members of the audience signed up to speak on this issue, so we'll go to discussion amongst directors. Hearing none, please call the roll.
Weatherford,
Aye.
Garcia,
Aye.
Foley,
Aye.
Davidson,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye. Ordinance is adopted. We'll consider ordinance number 01910, and we'll entertain a motion to suspend the rules and read by title.
So moved.
We've got a
Second.
motion by Director Weatherford, seconded by Director Clark, I believe. All in favor of the motion to suspend the rules and read by title only signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Ordinance 01910, an ordinance amending ordinance number 6037, accepting a new section of right-of-way off of Tatum Street and for other purposes. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Director Clark and Director Garcia. Thank you. Mr. McFate, you are going to trump Kathy Selman in the amount of times you've been up here.
Thank you, Mayor.
Welcome.
Thank you, sir, and board again. Shortly after annexation of the area of Tatum Street in July 2014, the board approved ordinance number 6037, which approved the acceptance of Tatum Street for city maintenance. With the continued growth of the Hot Springs Creek Greenway to Television Hill, it is necessary to extend the street right-of-way maintenance farther west the existing paving to allow for the future trail construction to the city-owned property, which is a Gene Wallace trailhead at the end of TV Hill. Therefore, staff recommends approving amending ordinance 6037, thereby allowing for the modification of the street acceptance description and also allowing for the city maintenance of this right-of-way to continue to the property that we now own. It's known as Gene Wallace Trailhead. And the boundary description of the street would change to, for Tatum Street, it was from Canna Street west approximately 2,644 feet in length to the southeast boundary of partial ID 91514, which is the Gene Wallace Trailhead property at the end of Television Hill.
Very good. Any questions of Mr. McFate?
Thank you.
Thank you. We had no members of the audience sign up to speak on this issue. Discussion amongst directors. Hearing none, please call the roll.
Garcia,
Aye.
Folly,
Aye.
Davidson,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Weatherford,
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye. Ordinance is adopted. Now we'll consider ordinance number 01911 and entertain a motion to suspend the rules and read by title only. Motion to suspend the rules.
So moved, Mayor.
Second.
Director Jones,
Folly.
Director Foley. Please read by title. Oh, all in favor of the motion to suspend the rules, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. It's getting late and they're weakening on me.
Here we go. Ordinance 01911, an ordinance approving a street name Arvest Way located between Falls Road and Section Line Road, accepting Arvest Way as a city street and for other purposes. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
A motion to adopt.
So moved, Mayor.
Director Jones, seconded by Director Weatherford, and for his fourth and final appearance this evening.
Yes, it is. Thank you, Mayor.
Taking the lead from Planning Director Selman, we have Public Works Director Denny McFate.
Thank you again. Mr. Mayor, the Arvis Bank located on the corner of Files and Section Line Road are requesting the naming of a section of private street that is located between Arvis Bank and the Keystone Crossing Shopping Center. These streets have been inspected and meet city specifications. Therefore, staff recommends approving the name of this street as Arvest Way and also the acceptance of the street and right-of-way for city maintenance. Any questions?
Very good. Any questions of Mr. McFate? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You have a splendid evening.
Thank you.
We had no citizens sign up to speak on this issue. I actually thought Dane was going to walk right out the door into this car. We had no individuals sign up. Discussion amongst directors. Hearing none, please call the roll.
Folly,
Aye.
Davidson,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Weatherford,
Aye.
Garcia,
Aye.
McCabe.
Aye. Ordinance is adopted. Our final action item of the evening is to consider ordinance number 01912 and entertain a motion to suspend the rules and read by title only.
So moved.
Second.
Director Weatherford, seconded by Director Garcia. All in favor of the motion to suspend the rules and read by title only signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's approved. Please read by title.
Ordinance 01912, an ordinance amending ordinance number 5329, adopting the Hot Springs Plumbing and Gas Code 2003 edition, closed as amended, hereby repealing certain sections relating to RPZ testing and for other purposes. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Motion to adopt.
So moved, Mayor.
Director Jones, seconded by
Second.
Director Weatherford. And Lance Spicer is going to provide a staff report.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This item is a request to amend. This is Title 15 of the Building Code. Deals with RPZs. Those are reduced pressure zone assemblies. You find those on sprinklers and other types of assemblies like that. Hot Springs Code currently it does require that the use of a digital type calibrated tester. And when doing a little price checking between the difference between a digital testing and an analog, digital retailed for up to anywhere between $2,500 to $7,500, whereas the digital was about $1,000 to $1,500. So in visiting with the building development staff and engineering and utilities, the price differential in the quality of the testing that you got for that RPZ assembly, Hot Springs adopted an exception to the code. So that's an additional requirement that we had with that digital tester. And in reviewing that, we couldn't really see why that particular requirement would be needed. The request is to amend the code to allow for analog or digital, so that those that have made the investment in digital, obviously they can still continue to use them. However, those other type of testing and repair technicians, plumbers, et cetera, they can use analog testing equipment as well. So the amendment on the floor is to allow for analog or digital testing equipment.
As far as who can perform the function, is there any change in that?
We actually, at the staff level, we had discussed being able to, from the interpretation of the code, to address that particular issue. I think there's been a little bit of ambiguity in how that particular section, 15.6.18 of Hot Springs Code, how it reads. And from a staff perspective, I'll prepare a memo for the city manager and the city attorney to review and give direction on staff how to interpret that particular section.
Very good. So right now, the only change would be the addition of the analog testing equipment.
Correct.
Okay. Let's see, we have two people to speak on this issue. Mr. Ron Jarrell. Mr. Jarrell, please come forward and state your name and address, please.
I'm Ron Jarrell, Ron Jarrell, 874 Shady Heights. We need to, number one, know what an RPZ valve does. That prevents, it's a valve or a device that prevents fertilizer from your sprinkler system, or contaminants from the hospital, or contaminants from a manufacturing facility from accidentally getting back into the potable water system of Hot Springs. We're now using a digital device to test with, which this digital device is a computer that measures the static pressures, measures the differential pressures in between each zone of that valve that causes it to leak, and you get a certified test. The machine has to be certified, and the test is certified. It also prints out a ribbon, a tab sheet. After the test, it prints everything that it read from your water service or from the service that is tested. Now, when you go to the analog system, you're looking at a pair of gauges with the same hoses that the digital machine has got on it. But the man looking at the gauges is writing down the differential pressures and whatever, and you're depending on his integrity to give you the right measurements and the right test. So I'm totally against changing to the analog system. Any questions?
Any questions, Mr. Jarrell?
I mean,
So again, the digital
thing.
provides the digital provides you a paper trail,
The
if you
digital
will.
provides a print. When the test is done, it prints a tab sheet telling you the static pressures and the pressures in between each part of that valve, that the differential that caused it to leak. And those parameters of the pressures is what determines whether that valve is a good valve or not a good valve.
As far as the accuracy of the analog system, is it
The accuracy of the analog system, you're dependent on the guy that's doing the testing. In other words, he can look at that gauge and it may say 100, but he said, well, 90 I do.
No, well, that's the recording part, but the gauge itself is...
The gauge itself will do the same thing, but then you're dependent on the integrity of the guy that's testing it on your water system.
Mm-hmm. Director Foley?
Mr. Jarrell, for the consuming public, what is the price difference for an RPZ valve check when you use the two different kinds of equipment?
I don't know.
Okay.
We haven't had the analog system here. When it was we're required to buy those digital systems, and we that test RPZs, we're accustomed to using that device, and it does an accurate device. It is, we have to send them into a certification every year, and that machine is certified, and we have proof of certification, and the city gets the certification of that machine.
Thank you.
What is the frequency of the property owner having to have the valve tested?
1 year.
One time each year?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Any other questions of Mr. Darryl? Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Darryl Kunkel? Please come forward. Welcome. Please state your name and address.
Darryl Kunkel, 579 Walnut Hill Drive, Hot Springs. Hot Springs has led the way